Hey, good one here, and eventually we will like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, help promote and rank up my channel. So I'm doing a review for Umbrella Academy Season 2. Uh, First up, I would like to say, I had my concerns going into this season. Season 1, what I didn't think was the best superhero show or something truly outstanding and amazing. Uh, it had its ups and downs and a lot of really slow pacing to get there. And season 2, they talked about stepping away from the darker aspects of the first season and focusing more on comedy. That also increased my concern because you know I don't want to just be like slapstick or Marvel where it's joke, 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 lack of substance. No offense to Marvel. Marvel's got a lot of great content. A lot of great movies and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to a lot of their TV shows that they do on Disney Plus, and comparing it to how they do things over here on Netflix originals like The Umbrella Academy. Um, and other concerns I had is that we're going to go back in time, be set in the 60s. This one is set in the 60s. It's about this family that well, it's pretty much like season 1. In fact, they retread a lot of the same themes and grounds and story tropes. And it involves, this these estranged family members are not so much estranged, but they've grown apart and they got to come back together to kind of solve a problem. Uh, and if you've seen season 1, you know what that problem is. But I had some concerns going on this one because they were going to go back into the 60s and they said they were going to tackle racial issues and all that. And that's okay for the times, the 60s. There's definitely racism and homophobia there. And, but, and hopefully a lot of people can watch this and see how different the times actually are. That people are not oppressed like they used to be, that things have really changed. And I think that a lot of people need to recognize that, and hopefully season 2 helps them recognize that. Hopefully it doesn't just escalate things and promote misleading things. But aside from that, I want to. The way I do things over here, I break things down into 3 sections. I give you the best up front to help your audience as any type of creative artist would, and because that's what they tell you to do with screenplays. And then I'll give you Act 2, which is my personal bias and opinions on other things, and then Act 3, though the worst stuff, the stuff that they say save the worst for last, not the best, because you want people to watch your video. But let's just start with the log line. Essentially, is that they all go back. If you haven't seen season 1, I don't know why you're here, but you definitely should watch it. It is sometimes you got to tread your way through it, but Logline, a family of former child heroes now grown apart must reunite to continue to protect the world. And in season 2, they all end up back in the 60s, but at different years or times in the 60s. And it's up to 5 to find the rest. And 5, let's just jump into the best stuff. 5 continues to impress. The character played by, this young child star, he is absolutely amazing. I would really enjoy seeing him as a Dick Grayson or a Jason Todd in a Batman live action film. This guy is just impressive, really impressive. I'm going to try to do this without a lot of spoilers and probably do a spoiler review individually. But, so that's the log line pretty much, is, these former child heroes that have grown apart must reunite, and this time it's in the 60s instead of in 2019 or modern day settings. And the stars: Ellen Page, Tom Hopper, Aidan, Gallagher, and it's a really nice ensemble cast. Now, if you're one of those individuals that are concerned about it being like woke, like most of Hollywood material is today, like CW and stuff, yes, it is kind of a show that leans that direction. But season two is much more entertaining than season one. And one of the best things about this season is that it almost feels like every episode ups, like they one up each other as it goes deeper and deeper into the season. It feels like each episode one ups the other episode. Every Almost every single episode has some really great shots, some really amazing visual, some pretty funny jokes, some very interesting stuff, some very quality VFX and top notch action. Like as it goes along, it just kind of gets better and better. And season one, I didn't feel like that. Season one was kind of back and forth, tug of war for me. Some stuff was great, some stuff was pretty poor. I just wasn't into it. The pacing was all off. But here, the pacing is absolutely amazing, and the balance of this ensemble cast, it is exceptionally well balanced this season. Quite incredible. Um, all these characters have a lot going for them. They all have different things. They even enhance, elaborate, and go further in on things that weren't that much explored on season one. That they there a lot of the stuff. There are a lot of answers to questions people from season one would have. Um, that get answered here in season two, and more questions are brought up that don't get answered, but there definitely will be a season three. And I'm very surprised that this isn't actually number one on Netflix. I don't know what it's ranking at right now, but I'm actually shocked that it isn't number one on Netflix because season two is really high quality, from the storytelling angle to the action to the effects to the acting to everything. The music a little. There's a couple things in there, and I'll elaborate on that as I go further in. But uh, yes, it does. It is kind of like a left leaning type show, but it is absolutely amazing. The character 5, which they give a lot more focus to, that was my favorite character in season 1. Now, I'm not heavily familiar with, the source material it's adapted from. So I can't tell you everything they do and don't do wrong, but I can tell you that season 2 does make almost every one of the characters much more likable than season 1 did. And characters like Ben, uh, I'm not going to get into much, but there's a lot of things that you're going to really enjoy this season if you give it a chance. And even if you didn't like season 1, you might want to give this season a chance because this season it really is better in a lot of different ways. Now, there are some aspects that I will miss from season 1, but they definitely eliminated the problem they had with season 1 where the pacing was such a problem. It felt like they were dragging their feet and all that. This one does not do that. Uh, let's move into like personal bias on this. There are there are a couple lines of dialogue and like every other episode they have something that just it's not very realistic to from for instance, you're running down a thin hallway and people are shooting at you with nothing in the way, and they're trained high quality assassins. There are a couple scenes throughout the season where there's moments like that where it's just not very realistic, and of course, these characters aren't gonna get killed off that easy. But to have characters running away from others in a thin hallway and have highly skilled trained assassins trying to shoot them in a hallway and not hit the mark, and it's well, that's kind of not personal bias. That's actually a negative on the story itself, like on the execution of the story itself. So that's really not personal bias. My personal bias for this season, there's not really a lot that I can say I have a biased opinion on that probably wouldn't negatively impact your view of the story. So let's just jump into the bad things. Like I said, highly skilled trained assassins shooting at you from not far away in a thin hallway or something like that. That's not very realistic execution, and that's pretty poor. And The times, it is clearly set in the 60s, so times are going to be more racist and homophobic type, and they it's not an inaccurate depiction what they do here. I really can't stand like POC political correctness and stuff in my entertainment. It oftentimes feels like a lecture, and when it's well executed, it it's enjoyable to watch. And when it's well executed and accurate or something, then yes, I'm all on board with it. But forced like political correctness and stuff like that, it feels like a lecture, and I'm not on board with it. But this is set in the '60s, so I'm not really turned off by the things that I see in here. In fact, I kind of feel like they don't go far enough, because you take a character like Allison, who is black, and in those times, she would have a really troubled life. She would have a really hard time. Um, and there are moments like moments where they tell her, get your black ass out of here or whatever. But I kind of feel like that doesn't go far enough, because in those times they would definitely be using racial slurs. Uh, so I kind of feel like they tamed it. I laid it back, because it doesn't actually go far enough for the times. And usually I'm somebody that's like, oh God, this is an exaggeration or whatever. But in this particular case, no. I feel like they didn't go as far as they should have. Uh, Back to my personal bias section, though, I want to say that I feel like this wakes up a lot of people in modern day BLM thing, where everybody's claiming to be oppressed and stuff. You can clearly see that the times are different, and I hope people recognize that maybe the younger people recognize that when they watch something like this, and they can clearly see that the times are different, and that you're not oppressed anymore, that things aren't what they used to be, and the country really has come a long way. Now back to the bad things. Later in the season, there is kind of this huge action scene where a lot of people are firing guns. Again, highly skilled, trained assassins firing guns, and they're missing the mark in a clear, open field where there's no reason to miss. That for me was really a negative again on the execution. Another thing that's a negative on the execution is that other than trained assassins missing the mark when there's absolutely no reason or at all, is the big surprise of who somebody is. And it's really hard to explain without a spoiler. I'll have to explain in a spoiler, but basically, somebody really powerful and in plain sight, and kind of have. There's a moment in there where a power is. It's just all too convenient to use at that point in time. To have something to do with a force field, but an individual that can really only redirect like other individuals' powers. I just felt like that wasn't explained well to me, what she just did there. Well, I'm saying too much now. I need to shut up. Well, anyways, back to my personal bias though, which I should have just. I feel like the music, not all the music, but a lot of the music in here should have been tied to the time period, instead of just being, popular songs from like modern day or even 10 years ago or years ago. It really should have been nothing but music from this time period played throughout the course of the show. And one more time, back because this wasn't thought out. I didn't prep to do this review or anything. It's on the spot because I'm on time constraints, and I try to release the video at 9, 11, and 2 every day. So I will elaborate more with a spoiler review later. But there are really, in the bad aspect, there are times when they just play a song and the song really fits the scene, the lyrics do. But there are also times when they play a song, and it's like there's a Backstreet song played in here in a particular scene, and it makes no sense to me that that's the choice of song in this moment when it happens. It feels very odd and ridiculous, or maybe that's what they wanted to capture. But I feel like they should have really captured tension more so than humor in that particular scene and scenario. But with that said, uh, this season is definitely amazing. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. It's full of humor. The humor did not actually hurt the darker or more serious aspects of the show, and the cast is well balanced. Like they all get more screen time this time around, and they all get more development, and everything is just so much more well executed than previously expected. Um, one more thing on the personal bias thing. Ellen Page, her character Vanya, um, there's a strange blurring. There's a strange thing where it just feels like either the actress herself asserted herself in the character or the creative team is just so close to her that they wrote more of the actress into the show than the character Vanya and who she was in season one. I know that's kind of hard to understand the way I'm explaining it, but I can't explain too much without spoilers. Um, and that's pretty much all I can say. But this show was top notch this season. I would give it a solid 9 out of 10 because everything is amped up and it continues to amp up episode by episode. I thought it was really well executed. All the things they did were outstanding, amazing. And Five is the most awesome character on this show. Still, the fact that he gets so much more screen time. This actor can act, man. This actor can blow you away. But everything was better this time around. I will say that. So if you have iffy feelings about approaching this one, I think you can approach this one with confidence and find something enjoyable. There are a few moments in particular, episode later in the show that's really kind of not the best execution of things, but I think you really enjoyed this season. I can't continue on talking about that, but 9 out of 10, solid 9 out of 10. I'll try to come back with a more elaborate review with spoilers and all that will actually give things away, but just time constraints, you know. Big good one here. Eventually, we will stay awesome. Rock on.